Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us for Facebook with the Facilitators presented by Journey to Wholeness. We're just going to hang out here for a second while we have you all logging in and joining us this evening. If you don't know what Journey to Wholeness is, it's a program that was designed to help you feel equipped to face life's challenges. And tonight we'll be talking about boundaries, healthy boundaries. So if you know anyone who has told you lately that they need to set some boundaries in their life or are having trouble maintaining boundaries in their life, you want to make sure to click that share button to invite them to join us tonight. You can also tag them in the comments below. So comment and say hi. Let us know that you're watching with us. This is Facebook with Facilitators, which is presented to you by Journey to Wholeness. If you don't know what Journey to Wholeness is, it's a program that was designed to help you feel equipped to face life's challenges. And tonight we are talking about boundaries. We're talking about how we can have healthy boundaries in our life where we're living in a world that is in persistent and consistent change right now. What we experienced 2 months ago is different than what we are experiencing today. It's different than what we'll be experiencing next week. So hello, Christy. Hi, Amy. So let us know you're here. Comment in the chat in the comments below. We have facilitators online who are waiting to chat with you. And in a minute, we're going to have some of our facilitators join me to discuss how we can have healthy boundaries in our life. So again, share this feed or comment below, tag a friend, let them know that we're talking about how we can establish and have and maintain healthy boundaries without trespassing on the boundaries of others, which is very, very difficult right now, right? It's all new and we are having to work through things, figure things out. So hi, Stephanie. Thanks for joining us today. We have Trish in the comments below. She's one of our facilitators, one of your facilitators. She would love to interact with you. She's missing you all. So tonight we're going to hear from a few of your Journey to Wholeness facilitators. Tonight we have with us 3 of your facilitators, Amy, Dana, and Tiffany. And they'll be joining me on the screen. Here they are. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, welcome. So tonight our topic is healthy boundaries. Always a tentative topic, always a hot topic, right? How do I establish boundaries? How do I keep boundaries? How do I ask others to keep my boundaries? How do I not trespass on the boundaries of others? And how do I address it when someone trespasses on mine? So in a changing environment, which is what we've been experiencing, our rules of interaction and engagement are being challenged every single week. Seems like day to day. How can we live and set healthy boundaries in our lives without trespassing on those of others? So we're going to talk about boundaries that help us to be mindful of others without giving up our own. Now, in Journey to Wholeness, we like to start by defining a concept. So what do we mean by boundaries when we talk about boundaries? Now, boundaries are the rules that we choose to live by that tell us what we should or should not do about what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. Now, that's pretty broad because it's determined by a multitude of things: our culture, our family, our community, our faith, whether or not we're in a pandemic. So many things we factor into how we set our boundaries. And they all stem from 2 specific things. One is our perception, our own thoughts, fears, convictions, our own beliefs, as well as our hearts. The desire that we have to feel cared for and safe, and our desire to care for and protect our loved ones as well. So we're going to talk about 3 distinct things today. We're going to talk about why it's important to have, set, and hold boundaries, what happens when we don't have boundaries, and what to do if someone is trespassing on your boundaries. So we want to see you comment below. Are boundaries something that you have trouble with? Do you have trouble setting boundaries, or do you have trouble asking others to keep boundaries you've set? So we're going to start with Tiffany. We want to hear, tell us, why are boundaries so important to have?
Well, first of all, I like to bring up the fact that Jesus even set boundaries. And if we're like Jesus, we're trying to be like Jesus, we get to set boundaries. So it's a gift. It protects us. It protects others. It protects our loved ones. I know at first when we had boundaries set on all of us during this pandemic, and not everybody appreciated it. And some people were like, "Phew, thank God." So they protect all of us. And I think it's important to realize that even though you're not caring for what other people are setting as far as their own boundaries, we still have an opportunity to be respectful to them. And because we too want that in return. So they protect all of us. And so we obviously feel safe when we're protected, right? So, I can think of a time when I first started setting boundaries, I had to think about, well, what is it that I want? I think a lot of times we're really unsure about how to set boundaries. And so I correlate boundaries with self-love. And what is it that I need in order to feel protected? And so then setting those boundaries by asking myself, and everyone else can do this too, is just asking yourself, what will nurture me? How can I set a boundary that's healthy and not feel guilty about it? Because when Jesus set boundaries, I'm pretty sure he didn't feel guilty, right? He got a lot of requests. So, and he didn't always fulfill every single request that people were asking him to do. So it's important that we set those boundaries to help protect us and others.
Yeah, absolutely. Until we can feel like we're in an environment where we are safe and where we're having compassion and care for ourselves, it's difficult really for us to be in a place where we can even think about others. And so I think often we trespass on boundaries or allow others to trespass on our boundaries exactly for the reason that you said. We're not sure what it is that we want or we're looking to establish. We haven't taken the time to work through that process and ask that question about, what is it that I'm trying to achieve here? What is it that is impacting me right now? What is it that's bothering me right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And too, the other thing is, think of it like, everyone has boundaries when it comes to a home. You have land that separates, and we don't trespass that. And what happens if we trespass? Well, enter at your own risk. But thinking of it like that, we have boundaries everywhere, and it really is an opportunity to teach others that they too can set boundaries once we start doing that as well.
Yeah. And Trish in the comments is saying, define your boundaries. It's so important. Just like in our last talk, we talked about taking an inventory. We need to take an inventory and define what those boundaries are in our life that are important for us, for our well-being, for our safety. And you don't need to give those boundaries up because someone else doesn't think that they're necessary. If it's necessary for you, you have the right and the authority to set boundaries in your life that are going to help you to grow and move forward and progress. Absolutely. So I think of Proverbs 25:28, and it says, a city that is broken and without walls is like one whose spirit is without restraint. And that's both ways, right? Like I can't be trespassing, like you said, on other places. I need to know what those boundaries are. We need to define them. We need to have conversations about what's okay with you and what's going to make you feel good and going to help you progress and grow because I care about you. But also, here's what my needs are as well. Now, a lack of boundaries contributes to a feeling of being helpless. And that's what that scripture is talking about. It's without restraint. And think about your kids when they're having a meltdown, right? The best thing you can do for them is to just hold on to them and let them know that it's going to be all right. Let them know that you have boundaries for them, that you have this safe place for them that they can be confident in. And that's the exact same thing that we're trying to do for ourselves and can do, is to establish a boundary for ourselves that lets us know in this place, this is where I'm comfortable. This is where I'm going to live. When we don't have that, we can feel like things are uncontrollable, unpredictable, and overwhelming. Even when someone else sets a boundary for us that kind of trespasses on what our needs are. We can feel all of those three things. And when we feel that, and I'm gonna get all sciencey on you because you know that's what I do. When we feel that in our nervous system, it includes both our body and our mind, right? So we may be feeling tension in our body because our nervous system is telling us, hey, I feel like things are out of control right now and I need something to ground on. And so then our minds start racing and we start like imagining all kinds of things that may go wrong, right? We do all the what ifs and possibilities, and we try to reason through them, and we enter into anxiety, and we can even enter into panic, and we can put ourselves into the stress mode, which increases our cortisol and adrenaline, and now we are in fight or flight, right? We want to act and react, and then our nervous system will decide when it's under those feelings and that increased stimulation. It's going to tell us that we are under threat because we're anxious or stressed or emotional, and we're going to get reactive. And I don't know about you, but I don't like being reactive. I like being in control of how I interact with other individuals, right? And how I portray myself and how I treat other people. And so I don't ever want to be reacting because I let my nervous system take off and get into a state where I'm just exploding with emotion. I want to make sure I'm responding, because otherwise, if we don't have boundaries, we can start to enter into conflicts. So Dana, tell us why a lack of boundaries brings conflict.
Absolutely. I thought a lot about this in relationship to how our feelings and emotions really trigger conflict with our boundaries. Unmet expectations, desires, unmet comparisons even. Our emotions make it very hard for us to stop and think. We feel the need to give or share our perspective too quickly, especially in a person-to-person conversation. This often happens without established boundaries or even a plan in place to help us work out conflicts before they happen. Because a lot of us, we react too quickly, especially from an emotional standpoint when there's a topic that really hits close to home. When we're in a conflict, we're trying to get our perceptions across by saying, I feel, I think, I want, I need. And then even if we're trying to share, we're trying to make a point on someone else's behalf, chiming in to come to someone's rescue or to make sense of conflict or things that are happening that make people upset. Whether we're in a person-to-person conversation or responding on social media, and that's a big one right now that a lot of us are struggling with. When we're responding on social media, we have to step back and think before we speak or take action, because we need to evaluate, why is this an issue for me specifically?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is the real cause?
Yes.
Why am I judging this issue? Because really, if we think about it, if we take a moment to really look at it, we're putting a judgment on something that's being said, done, reposted, whatever's happening. We are judging that item at that time.
Right.
And then we want to look at, why am I so upset about it? What has triggered me to really lose my cookies and fly off the handle about something that someone else is sharing?
Yeah.
And so, that's really, we got to take a look at those.
Absolutely. So the key is that conflict starts in our own hearts. And when you said that we judge things, we make this decision about what the situation is that someone's sharing about and what their circumstances are. We tend to try to equate them to our own, because that's what we do. We're people who are in relationships, so we try to relate to other people. Sometimes, though, because we have things that we're fearful or concerned about or frustrated with, and we see something, we make a quick decision. And actually, in the comments, Trish said, oh gosh, let me see if I can find it. Pause before you talk or type your response.
Yeah.
We need to slow our roll, as Pastor Sean says, right? We can't go straight from, I heard something, to this is what I decided because this is what I was concerned or going through. And I assume that that's exactly what you're talking about, or that your situation or circumstances are the same as mine. And they're absolutely not. So conflict starts in our own hearts. There's a conflict inside of us. There's some unmet expectation. There's a need or a desire, like you said, a hope, a consideration that is not being acknowledged or addressed right now. So if we want to resolve that conflict, we need to ask the question and write this down. If you're listening right now, write it on the screen as well. What is really going on, right? Why am I so quick? Why do I feel so strongly about this? Why am I getting so upset or so emotional for myself and then for others, right? So first, I want to control myself because that's what I can control. I am absolutely in authority over myself. And if I'm not, then I need to do some digging, right? But then we also have to do that when maybe someone else has a reaction to what we have been saying or what we shared. And our intention wasn't to trespass on anyone or create conflict. However, they have this emotional response.
Well, and it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
When we really think about it, it's in the time where we get emotionally connected and are in a conflict, that domino that has tipped it and started it, it could be miles down the road. Where we could be in the middle before it actually ends. And we're interjecting and we are getting upset about it and we are judging what's going on, and sometimes we're not even in touch with why is it really such an issue for us. And we let it get so overheated that it spikes our own reactionary
things. And those are the moments we have to slow it down and ask that question. What am I trying to achieve here? So we can, I mean, there's some of us, we have gold medals in fighting, right? We pride ourselves on winning arguments and being able to fight. And not all of us fight clean. A lot of us fight dirty. Some of us are proud of that as well. But we can enter in and suddenly it's not even about the issue that was at hand or the concern or the need or desire. It's about, I'm not letting down because I'm going to win this.
Thank God. How many times have we done, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you did not say that. Oh,
inside
no,
or not. Right. And that's when we really have to ask ourselves, like, what is going on here? What am I trying to achieve? And that's really difficult, like you said, Dina, to slow that down, because once we get some momentum behind that, we're just rolling along and we're saying things that we are like, oh, why did you say that? Why did you go there? Ooh, that was mean. That was dirty. That was uncalled for. And at a certain point, you can't even rein it back in because it's taken on a life of its own. And so it's kind of like that book, The Love Dare, right? When we're working on these things for ourselves, we also have to acknowledge that other people may not be, and they may not have come to this realization. They're not on this Facebook Live right now hearing and thinking about what's going on inside of them. And so there are times that we're going to have to do that for others if we want to resolve conflict. We have to think about what is really going on with this person who is exploding on you right now, who is just so upset. There's obviously something deeper happening. It's not this conversation. Can I pause for a second and say, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I was talking about myself. What is going on with you? What is it that you need? What is it that will help you? Tell me about your story. And in this time right now, that's a great question to ask, because we talked in past weeks how we started in all of this together this past 2 months of, we entered into this unknown and we all entered at the same place, but we're not coming out at the same place. Right. We all have different experiences. We all have had different stresses. We've all had different resolutions. And there's many of us who haven't had any resolution and are still in the thick of it. Can we
That's
think
a
about that?
really good point to make,
Right.
because each person is going to be at a separate starting point or within their understanding of healthy boundaries.
Right.
And so depending on how far along you are in your journey and where you are with understanding you from the beginning, from your own heart, is you're going to be at a different place within your boundaries and having a different comfort level with them. And the more comfortable we get with our boundaries and starting small and working out and coming to terms with our boundaries, then our reactions are going to be slower. We are going to take a little bit more time to think. We are going to take some more time to evaluate. Why is this an issue for me? Why am I getting involved? Why am I so upset? Because I know that God can handle it.
Yeah. In the comments below, Trish said, the deeper the wound, the easier you trigger. So the next time you're interacting with somebody who is just having this reaction and they're having a bad day, they're saluting you from the car, next to you. You need to consider, wow, what exactly are they dealing with today? And
I really love
consideration and not amplify that for them in their day to day.
Yeah. And I really like Ruben saying, slow down, stop. Don't roll through the stop sign in life.
Oh, that's so good.
Because when we pay attention to the yield signs, when we pay attention to the stop signs, it definitely gives us a moment to take a breath.
Yeah. And then Mary Ellen, she says, finding the root can be like peeling an onion. And that's absolutely true. We may think we know what the issue is, but it takes time to peel away each of those layers so that we can get to the root of what's happening inside of us. And we have to have some compassion. So we're going to move on to that because we're already in the thick of it. And our next point is this. Amy, I believe someone has trespassed on me. How do I resolve that?
Yeah, well, you can't, like you said, and like Dana said, we can't control how other people come at us. We can only control how we respond or react. Response gives us that pause to decide how we're going to, go back at that person. And compassion is what Jesus has done for us. We're forgiven because of his compassion for us and his love for us. And so we have the honor of being able to do that for other people. Even if someone busts through my boundary, my fence that I've put up, I have the ability to say, all right, I may not like how this is going right now. I don't like this conflict, or I don't like how you're acting, but Jesus has loved on me and forgiven me, even in all my nasty, messy, icky stuff. So that wherever you are, it's seeing where that person is. That, my mom always used to say, put yourself in their shoes. What's going on with them? That same question, what's really going on? Extend that to them and say, okay, what's really going on with them? And like you said, ask their story, ask what's going on in your day, what happened. There's just, people are people, and it could be as simple as, I spilled coffee on myself in the car and it was hot and it just started my morning wrong. And like you said, the dominoes just roll from there. And especially in this time, like we're all walking through things that we don't understand. We don't feel, it doesn't feel right. And so that roller coaster is just kind of the peaks and valleys feel a little bit more aggressive. So it's really just loving on that person and giving them that space, and then setting that boundary to say, all right, I hear you. Listening without the intent to respond right away. Listening to what's really going on and saying, okay, I hear you. And sometimes, a lot of times, it could an apology goes a long way. Apologizing, I think, is one of those things that, for some people it feels so wrong. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I shouldn't have to. But if that person is feeling something and you're involved in it, it's like a car accident. Like, you're there, you're at the scene. So I'm sorry I made you feel that way. It wasn't my intent. I'm sorry that that's going on for you. I'm sorry you had a really bad day. Like, how can I help? Even listening. So yeah, just extending that seeing those people like God sees us.
Yeah,
and
right.
sometimes in the heat of it, I have to take that pause and say, all right, Jesus, take the wheel and let me see them how you see them, because I'm certainly seeing them in my own eyes, and that's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah, showing or having compassion in our hearts changes the situation. That's exactly right, Ruben.
Yeah.
I love what you said. Jesus had compassion for me first. So I need to have compassion for others, depending where you're at in your journey. Like Dana was saying, there are others who are not as far along as you, and there are some who are further along than you are right now.
Yes.
And so can we acknowledge that? And I think we start that out by starting our days out like that, right? Can I enter into each day with the eyes of Christ? Can I remember what he's done for me and all that he puts up with me? And then can I extend that same compassion and grace to someone else? Can I show a little bit of love or mercy to someone else today and make all the difference in their day? I know just a dash of kindness to someone, especially now, because everyone's uncertain on how to interact, right? You look over and smile at someone, and if you're wearing, your PPE, then you smile with your eyes.
Yes.
Or you say hello, or go out of your way to show like how happy you are that you're actually seeing other people out and about again, and the sun is shining. Can you bring that bit of kindness that will give comfort to someone who maybe is uncertain right now? They are not sure how they should establish boundaries. They don't want to offend someone else because they need boundaries right now that are more careful or extensive than you need right now. Can I, though, have some compassion for you? Can I go out of my way a little bit so that you can come along on your journey and get to where I am today?
Well, and how can you implement these things in your life commandments that help you with your boundaries? Our life commandments are, you cool down and think before you respond. You don't yell or be verbally abusive in a conversation.
Right.
You show compassion. You take responsibility for your actions.
It's a golden rule. It
so is.
I read, oh gosh, I want to say it's the Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits.
I love that.
Treat others how you want to be treated, but take it one step farther. Treat them better. We don't always, and we say this in Journey, like we don't always say the right things to ourselves. Like, what if you wouldn't say that to a person that you love, to your spouse or your best friend or your kid? Don't say it to yourself. So take it that one step further and and treat them even better than you would want to be treated. Do you need a wave in that moment? Because you can't see this, the person's not going to see the smile under your
right.
Or like,
well, I think it takes wisdom and humility at the same time by apologizing for someone on how they're treating you even. I see that you're hurting and I'm sorry that you're reacting to me this way. Set a boundary. I'm going to step away right now. And maybe we'll connect again once things are just settled. That takes a lot of humility.
And it's not even just that. It's being like Jesus. Like even in the places that he was not treated well, he still acted in a way that was in accordance to his to being Jesus. Loving people first.
Hurt people, right? Yeah. It's not intentional. And sometimes we have to have enough compassion and love for someone to say, I'm sorry you're so upset. It's not okay to talk to me that way. So I'm going to step away. Like I forget what Amy was saying. I'm going to step away, or maybe it was Tiffany. I'm going to step away so that you can compose yourself, because I know you want to express yourself. I know you want to be heard. I know that you want to work this out, but right now you're emotional. And so I'm going to look away. I'm going to step away so that you have the dignity. I'm going to help you keep your dignity in this moment so that we can actually return and have relationships so that we can return and resolve the conflict. Because I have been there, right? I've been there where I've been emotional and I'm just going and I know I'm not getting anywhere. And I wish you would just look away because I'm hot right now. And can you show someone enough compassion and love to go, I'm going to give you that space. And then you come back when you're ready. I want to talk to you more about this when you're ready to do that. Right. And it takes like a 1, 2, 3, because usually in these circumstances where there's conflict and there's emotions and there's like, you just need to be heard and seen. It comes in 3s. So you might have to say, I hear you. I understand you're upset. I'm going to walk away right now and we're going to talk about this.
Yep.
Okay, yep. I see that you really want to talk to me about this right now and you don't want me to walk away. But I promise you, I'm going to come right back when you've had a moment. Right? And just being set in the boundary we set for, hey, we don't need to let this get out of hand. And I'm going to let you maintain your dignity and I'm going to maintain respect for you because I've been there too. And I know how that feels. So I'm going to walk away in this minute. Just like Amy was saying, can we listen and then listen again and then listen some more? We're trying to understand what someone might be going through. And I read in a book, I think it's on anger by Gary Chapman, where he says, the first time you listen, you're listening for the story. And then the second time you're listening, you're repeating it because you're clarifying the details. Am I hearing you correctly? And then the third time you're clarifying. Okay, so you're saying this because. So listening is interactive, really. And we think sometimes we just gotta stand there and just receive whatever someone's telling us. That's not the case. You listen and then you repeat it and then you clarify. And what happens when we do that is we're acknowledging that this person is indeed truly, truly upset. And there's something else going on. And there's a story here that is worth hearing and worth listening to. All of us story in this time that is so different than the others. And as soon as we do, it activates the compassion that we were all built with. We all have compassion inside of us, accessible. The question is, are we accessing it?
Yeah. I love that you had said earlier, Becky, that hurting people hurt people. So that's one side of the spectrum. But then when we're healed people heal people.
Yes.
You see how that goes, right? It's like the other line of the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes along with when you start using and implementing boundaries, you start them small and you work your way up, and they get easier and easier to follow through on. Because you can get started with setting boundaries, and the key is going to be following through. There's always going to be a little bit of misunderstanding. There's going to be a little bit of conflict, but when you start to practice patience and kindness and slow these things down, then you're able to think and have a response that you want to share. Not something that you're disappointed in yourself because you reacted too quickly and you said things that you're disappointed in, and then you've disappointed yourself again, and then you're in a little bit of a circle and a cycle.
The unhealthy cycle. Absolutely. I love what Ruben said in the comments. Kindness may be the only thing we have in our pockets to give and share, and that's okay.
Yes.
I love it.
Greatest thing you can do some days for someone is show a bit of kindness, and we all have that in our pocket if we choose to share that with somebody. I love that. And then Trish actually mentioned the 100% rule. So if you're not familiar with the 100% rule, it says we are 100% responsible for our own thoughts, our own perceptions, our own actions, our own behaviors. No one can make you do anything. So those are boundaries. Have you set boundaries for yourself that you keep, first of all? Because we can't change anyone else's perceptions or thoughts or actions or behaviors, but we do have control over our own. They have their own choices too. Can we keep our boundaries, though, in that process, in that I'm not going to engage when things get heated? I'm instead going to remember these things we've talked about tonight, or the things that we learned in Journey to Wholeness, and start practicing them in our everyday.
Well, one scripture that comes back to me quite a bit in relationship to this is James 1:19. Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear,
Mm-hmm.
slow to speak, and slow to anger.
Yes.
So good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, God gave us 2 ears for a reason.
Yeah.
Listen to
One mouth.
Right? Listen
Well,
more.
when one starts to go bad, we got to back up.
Well, and when we do those things, here's what we're doing. Here's science again with Becky, because it really is, once you understand that there's an actual science to it, that there's things that we're causing to happen inside of us that make us react, then we also can reverse that process, right?
Mhm.
So when we can listen and acknowledge and engage in someone else's story, it helps us to lower our stress responses, right? It slows things down, it calms things down. The adrenaline and cortisol that might be rising in your body because someone's talking to you disrespectfully or they're yelling at you, they start to make way for calm, compassion, creativity to work out the issue that's here, a connection and empathy for the person who's talking to you, gives you more clarity about the situation, what's going on here, not going on here. And then it gives you confidence, like, okay, I see the lay of the land. And so I am calm and collected. And now I can, instead of reacting and trying to defend myself, I can go, here's what's happening in the situation. Let me help you out here. Let me have some compassion for you. Let me love on you a little bit, because now, right now, this isn't even about what we were discussing. There's something deeper, and I care enough about you to engage in that. And it doesn't always get received, but we can still live in that way. We can still give and act in compassion with individuals. But here's the important part about that. When we can lower all of those hormones in our body and be in a place of peace, that's the place that Jesus lives in, right? Because he provides a peace that surpasses all understanding, meaning he wired us that way, that we can have direct access to that anytime. And when you're in that place, you're like, hey, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like,
what's up?
Right? He's like, let's help this person out. And you're like, okay, Jesus. We're going to help this person out, right? And how good does that feel when you walk away, instead of reacting and responding and going, why did that get to that degree? You go, wow, I'm so glad I interacted with that person who was having a really hard day, because I was able to help them, even if it was just a little bit.
Yeah. So true.
So compassion for ourselves first, because boundaries are about having compassion for ourselves first, right? We deserve to have boundaries in our life where we are respected and where we are considered and we're cared for and we feel safe, but also compassion for others. When I feel like the boundaries that were placed on us the last few weeks weren't correct, but can I have compassion for others who did believe they were correct and are still in that space and need a little more time to come out of what we all went through?
For sure. Everybody's situation looks different, even though, like you had said earlier, Becky, even though we're all in this together, everybody's situation looks differently. We're all dealing with different things, and just being respectful to one another.
Well, and look at the situations that you're in and the frustrations and conflicts that you're having, and how would you counsel a friend? How would you support a friend through this? How would you support and counsel your kids? We need to take a moment and give ourselves the good advice.
Yes.
And listen to, okay, how would I support another person who's struggling with this? And just talk it through or think it through. Because sometimes it really only takes a few moments for us to say, okay, how would I address this with a friend and help them? And then you can have an opportunity to respond at that point. But again, it's slowing ourselves down and giving us permission to take a moment before we respond. We don't have to just jump right in like a bulldozer and start to take control over everything, because that really probably wasn't the initial intent to begin with.
Exactly. And Dana, you had shared with me earlier scripture, Proverbs 15. Can you share that with us? Because that's so key to what we're talking about right now.
Absolutely. Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turns away a wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And that's every single time.
Yep. And that soft answer comes from a place of compassion. So compassion will resolve the conflict within us, Because first we have to go there. We have to look at what conflict is there within me, what fear, what stress, what worry, what need, what desire that is not being met right now that I need to consider. And then the conflict between us. Are we having a conflict because we're having a conflict, we disagree about something? That's okay. We're going to disagree with people, but how are we treating each other? Are we having compassion for one another? Compassion cures conflict. If you're wondering how to establish boundaries and how to get past conflict when it seems like there's trespassing going on, compassion will always cure any conflict. If you can get to the place where you can slow it down and you can remain calm and then assess what's happening before you, in you, but as well as the person with you. And if you can't see what's happening with them and don't know who this person is, ask, what's happening? Are you okay? I'm so sorry. And I love that you said that earlier, Amy. Sometimes I'm just sorry that you're going through something right now. It doesn't mean that I'm blame or I'm saying that I'm guilty of something or I did something wrong. It just means that I am sorry that this is the state you're in right now and I don't want you to be there. And so how can I help that process?
Yeah. And I want to add, like, I feel like with conflict and even just hard conversations like that, you know, it's muscle memory too, I think, along with this. Like the more the first time you have a really hard conflict and you're trying to figure out your boundaries and their boundaries and that it doesn't feel great. You know, if you don't come out it typically the first couple of times feeling like, oh, that was really good. You know,
no.
The more you practice that compassion, again, not only to that other person, but to you, I think it's just that muscle memory where it feels more comfortable and it feels you have you use your pause better to lean into Jesus in order to respond. It may be the same amount of time, but you just, instead of swirling in what you've got going on in your head, lean into him, and it just gets easier and easier because you remember that he's faithful in it and that he's bringing you through it, and that other person too, because he sees them and loves them so deeply.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to remember that he is right there. I love that. The pause. Say that again. Can you quote yourself? I can never quote myself.
About the pause getting shorter, longer? No. No, I don't know what I said.
It's the Holy Spirit. That's why.
That pause leaves room. We have to remember that Jesus is right there with us always. The Holy Spirit is the advocate who is with us always to remind us of the things that we already know and that we are capable of doing and achieving. And so if we can open up that pause, that leaves room for Jesus to be like, okay, girl, like, let's get this under control.
Together.
Like, you got to settle down, my man. Like, we're gonna work this out. I'm right here with you. And not just right here with you, but right there with that person who he's going, you know, maybe they're losing their minds and he's there going, hey, I love you too. I'm right here. I can help you. I can help you through this. I've given you all the tools you need inside of you so that you can resolve this and not be experiencing what you're experiencing right now, because his intention for us is good and love and grace and peace. And so if there's someone who is not in peace and you're in conflict and you're having trouble with boundaries, know that it may feel awkward. Like Amy was saying, it will feel awkward. You're not doing it wrong. It's just that you haven't put that into practice yet enough time. So that, you know, synapses in your brain hasn't made the full connection, but it will as you practice and as you leave room for Jesus to enter in and stamp that sucker tight so that the next time you enter into something like this, you can be like walking away going, that was pretty good. Like,
right.
Here's another space where we have the opportunity to look at what's our top 5.
Yeah.
And the best way to start incorporating what a boundary is when you put God first, yourself second, and then the appropriate ones in after that, a spouse and your children, and then church and work, however your top 5 goes. Yeah. But in order to really become connected with God and incorporating the appropriate boundaries, you have to take a look at that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you start your day with God so that you can put on his mind and so that you can enter into your day with compassion, right? And when you're working on that, when you're working on establishing that for yourself, it's on the forefront. And can you start giving bits of that away? Can you start giving that out like candy to people who it will be like candy to, because they just need somebody to show them some kindness and compassion today, so that that can start having the domino effect rather than our conflict having the domino effect.
Right.
Well, we have used up all of our time. I love this. This has been a great conversation. I want to just end today with something that helps me when things feel they're overwhelming or out of control. And we know that there are some of you who aren't sure yet what your boundaries are and what to do with those. So let me read this. It's a quote from St. Teresa of Avila, and it's one that it just brings me comfort. And it goes, "Let nothing disturb you. Let nothing frighten you. All things are passing. God never changes. Patience obtains all things. Whoever has God lacks nothing. God alone suffices." God is with you. You have got this. Live in compassion, and you will get conflict in you and the conflict you may be experiencing with those around you right now. We love you. We're so glad
love
to
you
be on
guys.
this journey with you as you establish some healthy boundaries. Thank you to the facilitators tonight for having this great conversation with me. It was a lot of fun, and thank all of you in the comments, Melissa, Trish, Christy, Ruben, and all you ladies, and men who I saw commenting here today. Share this with your friends. I think all of us need to be reminded about this topic right now, but also some of us need some help and some encouragement. Visit journeytowholeness.org for more resources, and make sure to check out the new Whole podcast, which will be available tomorrow on anxiety. We believe that anyone can find wholeness in Jesus. All you need is a path to get there. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.